Is the United States spying over Nigeria? According to a new report by Reuters, the United States has been conducting intelligence-gathering flights over large parts of Nigeria since late November. And the report cites flight tracking data as well as current and former U.S. officials. Exactly what information these flights are collecting remains unclear reportedly, but the data points to a sharp increase in security cooperation between Washington and the other side. The flights coming just days after U.S. President Donald Trump issued warnings to Nigeria threatening possible military action over what he described as the country's failure to stop violence against Christian communities. The timing here is also very important. The surveillance operations coming only months after a U.S. pilot working for a missionary group was kidnapped in neighboring Niger. And now, according to December flight data, the aircraft used for these missions is operated by a U.S. defense contractor taking off from Ghana, flying across Nigerian airspace and returning to Accra. The operator is Mississippi-based Tenax Aerospace, reportedly a company that provides special mission aircraft and works closely with the U.S. military, reportedly. Experts say the operation appears to be run from Accra, a known hub for U.S. military logistics in Africa. Analysts believe this could be an early sign that the U.S. is rebuilding its intelligence presence in the region after being forced to leave a major airbase in Niger last year, as that country turned to Russia for security support. Former U.S. officials saying the missions likely include tracking the kidnapped American pilot and gathering intelligence on militant groups operating in Nigeria. These include Boko Haram and the Islamic State West Africa province. A current U.S. official confirmed the flights are taking place but declined to provide details, citing diplomatic sensitivity. Washington, for that matter, says it is working with Nigeria to address the religious violence and the spread of terrorism. Nigeria, for its part, insisting the violence is complex and not targeted at any one religion, but has agreed to deepen security cooperation with the United States. The development also comes as Nigeria struggles with a growing security crisis, including mass kidnappings, deadly attacks on civilians, and a recent security emergency declared by the president. So the question still is, are these flights a sign that Washington is preparing for a much bigger role in West Africa? We'll have to wait and watch for the answer. As relations between India and Bangladesh continue to sour, an old friend to both countries has weighed in. The Russian ambassador to Bangladesh has urged Dhaka to de-escalate the tensions with New Delhi. There have been a number of diplomatic escalations by Bangladesh in recent days, remember. And in the latest, today, India summoned the Bangladeshi High Commissioner. He was summoned following a similar move by Bangladesh earlier in the day. The Indian High Commissioner in Dhaka was summoned for the second time in 10 days. He was called because Dhaka reportedly wanted to convey grave concern over the recent protests outside Bangladesh's diplomatic and consular facilities in India. Protests have been taking place in India over the recent lynching of a Bangladeshi Hindu man, Deepu Chandra Das, who was reportedly killed on December 18 following accusations of blasphemy. And today's protests outside the Bangladesh High Commission in New Delhi drew hundreds of demonstrators. Some of them broke through the barricades around the facility, but they were stopped from reaching the High Commission building. They were then taken into custody. India has maintained that it has kept the Bangladeshi diplomatic facilities safe, as required by the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. But Dhaka reacted sharply to the protests in India, putting out regular statements of concern, summoning the Indian envoy in Dhaka twice so far. Bangladesh has also suspended all visa and consular services in New Delhi and the city of Siliguri. That's where major protests took place. Now, it's amid this tense backdrop that the Russian ambassador made those remarks at a press conference in the Russian embassy in Dhaka. He said, I'm quoting now, "The sooner you reduce the tension, the better, because historically, since 1971, when Bangladesh gained independence, it was mostly because of Indian help," quote unquote. Not just that, he also reminded Bangladesh that Russia had played its part in its liberation and that India, Bangladesh and Russia should continue to work shoulder to shoulder. India, remember, played an instrumental role in helping Bangladesh get its independence from Pakistan in 1971. Between 1947 and 1971, what is today known as Bangladesh was called East Pakistan, remember, and the people of East Pakistan suffered decades of repression and neglect from the authorities. And even when an East Pakistani party, the Awami League, swept the elections in 1970, the region was not given the power it was due. Instead, Islamabad launched Operation Searchlight in March 1971, which led to mass killings and arrests in East Pakistan. This is what ignited the Bangladeshi freedom struggle. And on December 3rd, Islamabad launched Operation Genghis Khan, targeting 11 Indian airfields. And this is when India decided to officially enter the war on the side of the Bangladeshi revolutionaries. But Pakistan was not without its friends. The US sent a part of its 7th Fleet, Task Force 74, to the Bay of Bengal. It was led by what was then the world's largest aircraft carrier, the USS Enterprise. America also sent several guided missile destroyers and other ships as part of the task force. The goal was to try and intimidate India, get New Delhi to back off and allow Pakistan to quash any hopes of Bangladeshi freedom. But the Americans were not prepared to deal with India's old friend, the Soviet Union. New Delhi sent an urgent message to Moscow and asked for help in dealing with the Americans. And the Soviets came through. They dispatched nuclear-armed submarines and destroyers from Vladivostok in the Far East. The Russian fleet moved to intercept the Americans before they could reach India. The Russian submarines encircled the US Naval Task Force and prevented the Americans from threatening India. And thus, India could continue to help the Bangladeshi revolutionaries. And eventually, this led to victory just days later. And that is how Moscow, Delhi, and Dhaka stood shoulder to shoulder. And that is what the Russian ambassador asked today's Bangladeshi interim government to recall. But will the new faces in Dhaka be willing to listen, is the question. After the Louvre Museum heist fiasco, another high-profile robbery story rocking France, and this comes straight from France's presidential palace. This is about the alleged theft of precious tableware. Scandalous, to say the least, and especially after the Louvre heist. In fact, a senior staff member at the presidential palace will stand trial over the alleged theft alongside 2 others. Reportedly, around 100 objects reported missing from the presidential collection were allegedly found in the locker, car and home of the man reported to be the palace's chief butler. Reportedly, the man's role was head butler and keeper of precious silver. So the job involved setting the tables at grand events like state dinners, for example. And according to the prosecutors, reportedly, the inventory kept by the man suggested that he was planning to steal more items. What about the items allegedly stolen? They reportedly include champagne glasses, porcelain plates, solid silver cutlery. The man was reportedly arrested on 16th of December on suspicion of theft alongside his partner. A third individual who is reportedly accused of receiving stolen goods was arrested a day later. And this is not the kind of deja vu that the people of France or the image of the country can afford at this point, coming right after the massive Louvre heist sent shockwaves around the world and triggered a series of questions. Now, this trial is reportedly scheduled for February. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.